I want to talk to you today about a little bit about who we are and where we're going. Every once in a while, I think it's a good idea to pause and ask yourself what you're here for, as an individual and as an organization. So I asked the question: what do we do? What does BCIC do for people, for the economy, for its employees? What purpose do we serve, basically? And how do we see what we do? And how do other people see what we do? If I used to have an English teacher in high school from Boston, and he always used to say that verbs are doing words. So if we want to know what we do, what verbs would we come up with to describe it? So I threw a few together, and I just wanted to bounce those off of you, see if they resonate with you guys. I would have two sets of verbs that describe what we do, or do they? As an insurance company, essentially we're here for when people get into trouble. So the question is, are these words that describe what we do? Do you come to work and feel as if this is what you do? The next set of words is a different perspective on what we do. Do you think that this is what we do? Do you think our customers think that this is what we do? Well, let's make it a little easier to tell them apart. I think we know which ones are the good guys and which ones are the bad guys, right? So the thing about this is, don't just dismiss that, because there's lots of insurance companies out there for whom that's a business model. It's a legitimate business model, I guess. There are lots of examples of it. But the thing is, they wouldn't admit it to themselves. Certainly not to anybody else, but not even to themselves. Why not? I mean, if you're making a living, right? Because a lot of the time, they don't know that they're that. They think they're this. The question is not only what we think, but what our customers think. And it's a lot easier to be this than that, frankly. When you operate at the minimum level, you end up being that. When you don't push the breakout of industry norms and market practice that's been around for 30, 40 years, you end up with that. Whenever we treat a customer as a file, or as a policy, or as a claim, nameless, rather than as a unique individual, we end up with that. There's a little story that involves something that happened to me when I was 30 years ago, when I was a claims officer down the street at Jamaica General, which no longer exists. I was this was in the 80s, and at the time cars were a luxury. They were a prized possession. There were no deportees, so the only route to get a car was to get one from the dealer, or second-hand from an individual who was changing cars. So the supply was very limited, and far fewer people had cars, and when you had a car, it really mattered. So I was sitting at my desk one morning at JGI, and a tall, elegant lady walks in. I remember her voice was distinctively deep, and she spoke in a very formal and dignified manner. Her name was Gloria Card, and she was a third party in an accident. One of our insurers had damaged her car and she needed to get it fixed. She spoke in a very formal and dignified way. In other words, we couldn't have been more opposite. So her prized possession had been damaged and she needed it. She was in sales and she needed to be on the road selling. You can relate, Judy. She needed to get back on the road as soon as possible. It wasn't a very complicated matter, frankly. It was a clear-cut case. I walked her through the process, told her what to expect, and she didn't have any unreasonable demands or expectations. She just wanted to know what's what. So I told her how long it would take and what the steps were and what she would need to do. And she just wanted to be able to plan her life. So I sorted her out. She got her car fixed, and I thought, that's that. On to the next one. And then a few months later, I got a call. Phone rang on my desk. No cell phones in those days either. And it was this distinctively deep voice that I recognized. Hello, Mr. Levy. I'd like to insure my car with you. And she was so impressed with how she had been treated as a third-party claimant. And I remember her words pretty exactly. She said she hadn't been treated that well when she was paying premiums with the broker that she had, as well as she had was a third party claiming on us. So she was in no doubt as to what she wanted to do. So she insured with us, and she stayed a client for 20 years. And she never had another accident. She ended up running a pharmacy in Spanish Town. So that company got 20 years worth of loyal renewals with no losses, purely from treating somebody as an individual with respect. Nothing special. She didn't get anything she wasn't entitled to. But we got even more than that, because when we analyze our numbers and our clients, we know that for our direct new customers, 80% come to us because of referrals from friends and family. Okay, so for all the advertising in the press, TV, whatever, people rely on people they know. So this lady who ended up running a pharmacy in Spanish Town and probably had conversations with, I don't know, a couple dozen people a day for 20 years, would have had a lot of opportunities to speak well or to speak ill of her insurance company. And I have to believe that based on my experience with her, she spoke well. So countless additional business was generated from this encounter. For me personally, she would call every now and again, when straightforward renewals, she wouldn't necessarily call me, but every once in a while she'd touch base. And it became something of a touchstone for me. It was a source of pride as well, because every time I came across her name in the office or she called or whatever, it reminded me of something that I'd done that was good. But more than that, it showed me that, like I said, it's easy to be this if you don't try, and it's hard to see the benefit of this at the time you're doing it. So for me, she was an embodiment of the good that comes from doing business the right way. And so when I look at this and that, I know which one I want to be. So the question for me becomes, how do we make sure that our customers see us as that? Because as much as we might think it, we need them to think it.